All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Sheltered Instruction in Any Classroom. This is part of our English Learner Support Spring Series for 2021, where we discuss best practices for helping English learners acquire vocabulary and reach success in all of their content areas. I know a lot of you have been with me before, but if this is your first time in one of my sessions, my name is Gabriel Verone. I am an instructional content coach working with the English Learner Support Team at Region 11 for the last year and a half. I was a K through 4 bilingual, both one-way and two-way dual language teacher for many, many years, an assistant principal at a dual language campus, an instructional reading coach at a dual language campus, and then I've been at the service center. First, I was an in-person on-campus coach traveling around the district, around our region. And then in September of last year, I was fortunate enough to be added to the English language support team. This is my beautiful family. My wife, April, is a critical care nurse. My son, Malachi, is 13 and is now taller than I am. It's a little emasculating to have to yell up at somebody when they don't listen to you. And my son, Zachary, is 8 and is my clone. Everyone says he is so Verone, meaning he does a lot of the inappropriate things that I do, and at church as well. So that's nice. I am, as he tells everyone, I am a huge nerd, love me some Marvel and DC, and I'm also the part-time preteen minister working with 5th and 6th graders at South Cliff Church in Fort Worth. So it's nice, I still get to actually directly interact with kids because I love what I do, but I do miss actually teaching kids in the classroom. And so I at least get to do that a couple times a week, if only for an hour at a time. All right, let's take a look at our objectives for today and what I hope that you will get out of this session. We're going to use both social and academic language to discuss sheltered instruction strategies. We're going to practice creating objectives that combine the TEKS and the ELPs. Hopefully you're familiar with the ELPs. If not, I promise when we are done by today, you will be very familiar with them. We're going to share objectives that you create in both written form and orally, and you're going to get the opportunity to provide feedback to your colleagues' objectives. If you look at the bottom right of your screen, you'll notice that these objectives are aligned to specific dimensions in t-tests, so you can use this as evidence of your professional growth at the end of your evaluation with your evaluator. And the other thing that I want you to be on the lookout for is on different slides, you'll notice at the bottom in pink font, there will be the names of strategies. And what you're going to see is that we are going to practice sheltered instruction together. I realize you're not English learners, right? You're fully fluent adults. But I want you to see what these strategies look like demoed in real time, so it makes it easier to transition those to kids in your classroom, whether virtually or in person or in a hybrid model, or if you are a coach or a principal or on an administrative team, you would be able to coach your teachers in being able to implement the strategies as well. Okay, so let's start out. We're going to practice the strategy lower effective filter, which simply means making participants more comfortable, kind of breaking down the walls and the barriers that people put up in terms of language acquisition and really acquisition of any content because they feel uncomfortable or they feel nervous or worried. And so when we make conversation a little less formal, we actually promote language learning. And one thing that I forgot, and I apologize, I do want to introduce you to and thank Angie Murphy. She is the executive assistant for the English Learner Support Team, and she's going to be here with me helping do attendance. She will be helping monitor the chat, and we have a lot of links that I'll be sharing, and she's going to facilitate that process. So Angie, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. You are the best. Okay, so here's what you're going to do. I'm going to send you to breakout rooms right away. Right now, there are 27 participants, so there'll be about 3 or 4 of you in a breakout room. And what I want you to do is take one of those 5 minutes, write 3 facts about yourself that are relatively unique, but it's possible that some other folks may have experienced that same thing. So for example, I have been to 3 different foreign countries. I play 2 musical instruments, and as I mentioned earlier, I love Marvel movies and am currently enjoying WandaVision. So if you have been to 3 different countries, either give me the hands up, you can access that at the bottom on your tools and your reactions, or you can just put in the chat, me too. Not hashtag me too. That's different. Okay. Don't do that. Okay. You could put me also if you prefer. All right. So if you've been to at least 3 foreign countries, give me a shout out. Yeah, Andre has been to 3 at least. Andre, where have you been? You want to tell us?
I lived in the Bahamas. I went
Nice.
to went to Mexico. Also went to Montserrat. Went to some couple other places too in the islands.
Well, that's awesome. Very cool. Gwen's like, I've been to 3 different states. I think that counts. True. Why not? Like, for example, if you've been to like Washington and New Jersey and Alabama, they may as well be 3 different countries. True. Not picking on any of those. I'm just saying I am from New Jersey. And when I moved down here to Texas, I got a lot of, well, I still talked like this when I got down here. Like, not even joking. I talked like this and people would be like, you're not from around here, are you? Oh yeah. What was your first clue, lady? So, all right.
I get that a lot too, because I'm from Alabama.
Okay. All right. So then you're getting it now. So again, I'm going to send you to your breakout rooms. You're going to have 5 minutes. Use one of those minutes to come up with your 3 facts and then do a round robin. Each person share 1 fact and see who has also experienced that, and then keep going until you've done all 3. All right. If there are no questions, I'm going to go ahead and open up the breakout rooms. Okay. So here we go. Let me know if you cannot see the invitation, and if when you're in your breakout room, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand from the breakout room and I will join you. All right, it looks like just about everybody is back, but we have 6 seconds until the breakout rooms officially close and everyone is forced back into the main room. Kelsey wants everyone to know that she did not leave the breakout room because she doesn't like you. It was an accident. So please don't think her rude or unkind. All right, I have time for 3 people. If you would like, what was the most interesting fact you learned about someone else? And let's go ahead and practice using sentence stems for oral language. So I'd like you to use the stem. The most interesting fact I learned about somebody was, or is, your choice. The most interesting fact I learned about somebody is or was, I don't care. And you can drop it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. If you would like to share, just either raise your hand or put in the chat, I'd like to share. So the most interesting fact I learned about somebody is or was. Andre, you're up, my man.
Yes, the most interesting fact I learned about Madison is that she has a 3-legged rescue dog.
Very cool. I'm going to guess nobody else in your group had a 3-legged rescue dog. Okay. Still super cool, but that one is relatively unique. All right. Very cool. Thank you, Andre. I appreciate it. Anyone else? Feel free to raise your hand, drop it in the chat, or say, I'd like to share in the chat. Oh, Richard said that Matt likes to watch Korean TV via Netflix, and there are many of those. And then Susan said, the most interesting fact I learned about somebody is that one lady has more than 1 child in college right now. Hopefully they got scholarships, because if not, that is expensive. But congrats, both your kiddos in college. That is super great. All right. So hopefully you can see how even a simple activity like that, right, that is designed and is organized, can allow students to feel a little more comfortable and to use the language ability that they have, even if that ability is limited. All right. So the ice, I think, is officially broken. let's do a little bit of a pre-assessment. Angie is going to drop these 2 links into the chat for you, and these will allow you to open up the ELPS K1 leader pathway and the ELPS 2 through 12 leader pathway. Go ahead and use the pathway that is most appropriate for you. Okay, so obviously either what you're teaching or the kind of campus that you might be working on. If you are someone at the district level and you want to look at both, that's fine. I'm going to jump over and let you see what those look like on the big screen. Okay. Thank you, Angie. She's put those in the, so basically this will open up a document and you can actually go in and check what it is that you are doing. And so what it does is it looks at the 4 domains of language acquisition: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And then it also takes the 4 levels that are measured on the TELPAS test, right? Whether students are beginning, intermediate, advanced, or advanced high. And then you get to see these are the recommended things that you should be doing for students in each of the language modalities and depending on their language proficiency. For example, in order to promote good listening of English, extensively using gestures and checks for understanding. If you do that, maybe not just for your beginning students, but for all, click it. Speak in a clear, concise manner and use shorter sentences and fewer pronouns. Click it. Okay, so you get the idea here. Okay, you're going to go through and you're going to assess yourself. Again, this is the K1. The pathway for 212 has many of the same recommended behaviors for teachers. Okay, it's just a little more age appropriate for older students. All right, now go back to my presentation. So hopefully you were all able to open those. And I checked, because a lot of times, even with sharing permissions, Google is not nice and it won't let you share stuff. I sent every single link to my son, who clearly doesn't have the same kind of account that I do, and he was able to open everything. But if you are unable to, please let us know and we'll do our best to make sure it's available to you. All right, and so what you're gonna do is this. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to do a self-evaluation, okay? You're gonna go through that document and check things off, all right? And then when the 5 minutes is up, I'm going to open up a Zoom poll, and it's gonna allow you to rate yourself anonymously so we can see where we are as a group, and hopefully the strategies and information that is shared will help to raise your proficiency and give you some tools to put into place the pieces from the evaluation that maybe you are missing, or if you're already doing many of them, give you the ability to ratchet up what you're doing to an even higher and more effective level. Okay, so 5 minutes to evaluate yourself, and then I'll open up the Zoom poll. If you have any questions, please unmute and ask, or place those in the chat. If not, please evaluate yourself on the appropriate pathway and begin. Angie, we just had someone re-enter. Can you go ahead and post the bit.lys one more time? Because if they are just entering, they're not going to have access from the previous chat.
Will do. I think that it was someone who may have been in and came back in, but they probably did miss them.
So
It was me. I was on my phone, so I couldn't pull that document up. I was able to get it on my computer, so I'm going to log off on my phone now.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, Jamie, I knew it was you. I just wanted to make sure you got the stuff. As long as you're good,
Yeah.
we are good.
All right. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. Thanks, Angie.
I'll post those anyway, just for good measure.
Appreciate you. Excuse me. All right, you got about a minute and 30 seconds in case you are knee deep in the evaluation. Minute and 30 seconds.
Gabriel, I just saw a message that someone sent to me, and it says, when I click the link, it takes me to the Region 11 site. Please advise. Do you know what's going on there? I didn't.
I do not. Give me one moment. That should not happen. I'm going to go ahead and post a direct link in the chat to both.
Okay. Okay, now they say they've gotten in, so it's good.
Oh, okay. Well, I unnecessarily posted it, but that is okay. Better to have it than to not have it. True?
And I apologize. I was taking attendance while everybody was on a break, so I wasn't paying that good of attention to the chat there.
All right. I have no idea how much time is left because I forgot the timer shuts off if you exit the slide. So I'm going to give you 20 seconds. That way you're not just abruptly done. I know 20 seconds isn't very long, but it's the best I got. Take it or leave it. All right, 5 seconds. Check that last box. Okay, I'm going to stop my share so I can open up that Zoom poll. Oh, there's the polls button. Now, again, this is going to ask you if you feel like you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced, or advanced high. So I would just count, where do you have the most checks? If you are kind of in between levels, then you're the best judge of your ability. All right, thank you for those who have voted. I'm waiting on 6 friends. All right, 3 more. I'm going to give you about 25 more seconds, and then I will close the polling and I will show everyone the results. All right, 5 seconds. So if you're working on it, the bell tolls for thee. Okay, so as you can see, just about half of you feel like you're at the intermediate level. You get about 20% at beginner, 20% in advanced, and only about 3 of you are like, no, I'm the best. I bet you a lot more people feel that way, but they're like, I don't want to be like, no, I'm number one. I have to at least pretend like I'm number one. Otherwise, it really hurts my credibility in offering this particular session. So I'm definitely going to rate myself as advanced high. Okay, here we go. Now, there's one more preliminary document that I want to look at before we jump in to some of the strategies. And why isn't it? There we go. So did you know if you are ESL certified, and obviously if you are a teacher, you are the one that is providing the ESL services. Now, that may seem redundant. That may seem like, well, obviously, I know that, right? But you'd be surprised. We get a lot of questions about, well, who is the ESL teacher? Why isn't this student, especially, obviously, this is not true in a bilingual classroom, right? Because it's kind of understood that language acquisition is central to what we're doing, right? But a lot of times if we have regular ed teachers that are ESL certified, they are under the impression that there's supposed to be some additional ESL assistance. And on some campuses and in some districts or some LEAs, that may be the case, but usually it's on you, okay? And so I want you to take a look at this teacher checklist for ESL program implementation from TEA. Angie has been kind enough to drop that in the chat for you, so open it up. And this is what it looks like. So some of this is for district level personnel or administrators, right? In terms of program model design, right? Obtain and maintain ESL certification, set targeted language goals, yada, yada, yada. Obviously, staffing and professional development, okay? If you are a teacher, you are going to professional development, you're not planning it, okay? But if we do have some leadership personnel that are here, you're gonna wanna look at those. But the rest of this checklist is all about the classroom teacher. In terms of lesson planning and curriculum, in terms of instructional design, the methods and resources that allow that instructional design to come to life, and family and community engagement obviously is for the entire campus, but a lot of it is driven and facilitated by the teacher providing direct instruction to students and interacting with families. So go ahead. Again, we're not going to, this is not a, there's no poll or anything on this one. This is just for your own edification. Go ahead and take 2 minutes and see how you're doing on program implementation. All right, go. Just under a minute. Twenty seconds. All right. 2 quick words before we move on. One, I feel like a lot of you have seen Seinfeld in the past. Anyone seen Seinfeld? Or even if you're too young, maybe you watched it on Hulu. Well, a lot of you seem to have discovered what George Costanza discovered. Even if you're not actually working, if you look really intense and somewhat put off, it looks like you're really working hard. He's like, Jerry, I just look really angry every time they come to my office, and I got an extra week's vacation. So, no, I'm just kidding. All right, a few people smiled, a few people didn't. That's okay. The other thing is, if you're like, hey, based on the last checklist and based on this one, I already felt like I'm at beginner. There's so much stuff I don't know, or maybe I'm not doing, or maybe I wasn't aware of. Please understand, these are not meant to demoralize or discourage you. It is meant to show you there is a lot to being an effective English language teacher, right? There's a lot to language acquisition, but it's to show you what are the necessary steps, and hopefully through the rest of the session to empower you to be able to do those as effectively as possible, okay? So don't look at it as a negative, look at it as an opportunity, okay? All right. So Angie's gonna drop this bubble map. It is an editable Google slide for you, okay? And what we're going to do is I want to make this as personal as possible. So I want you to think about a specific English learner in your classroom. Or again, if you are on a leadership team, an administrator, a coach, a specialist, or something like that, pick an English learner that you have worked with in the past or that you are familiar with, okay? And what you're gonna do is you're gonna write the name of that English learner in the center of your bubble map graphic organizer, okay? And in just a moment, I'm gonna send you rather back to your groups, and you're gonna share why you picked that specific English learner. And again, the strategy here is a graphic organizer. Graphic organizers allow students to organize language in a visual way that gives it additional meaning, okay? And I'm gonna show you what this looks like. Sorry about that. It wasn't supposed to go back. There we go. Okay. No, where did this? Here it is. So you should have gotten a screen that said copy document. You're going to make a copy. Maybe. There it is. And you should have, once it loads, a Google slide that you can edit. Okay. Every time I say Google, my phone turns on. It's like, yes, talk to me. So in the center, you're going to write the person's name. So the one that I will always think of and be nearest and dearest to my heart. So when I was teaching 3rd grade bilingual, I had a little boy named Jared, and he was incredibly bright, incredibly clever, and very, very naughty. He was like my Dennis the Menace, right? So we start doing a read aloud, and we read it throughout the year of Harry Potter, the very first one, right? And so I get to Lord Voldemort. I read Lord Voldemort, and Jared goes, Mr. Baron, that's my dad's name. And I was like, Jared, your dad's name is not Lord Voldemort, okay? He's a fictional character. No, Mr. Baron, my dad's name is Voldemort. And I was like, no, Jared, it isn't, because your dad's not a wizard. And he's like, no, you look in the computer. That's my dad's name. So I was like, okay, fine. I'm gonna look in the computer and I'm gonna prove you wrong, right? So I go and I look in the computer, and I had met Jared's mom, never met his dad. And darned if you know what his dad's name was, Valdemar. But if you have a Spanish accent, and again, just so you know, I was not making fun of Jared's accent. Jared had an accent. My parents have an accent, okay? Don't be mad. If you have an accent, Valdemar sounds a lot like Voldemort, right? So turns out Jared's dad was the Dark Lord of South America. Who knew? All right. So you're going to go to your group and you're going to do a couple of things, because I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I want you to put your student's name in the middle, share briefly why you chose that student, what made them memorable for you, maybe what were their challenges, how were you able to help them, or it could be somebody that you are currently serving right now. Then, if you'll notice, it says language experience labels. What I want you to do after you share is if I can get this to load. Okay, so the characteristics of our English learners are various, right? They have a wide range of proficiency in English. They can speak a language other than English at home, obviously, right? But sometimes our language learners, even though they're second language learners, they may be a first generation American like I was, right? And their parents only speak Spanish, but the child may only speak English, or the parents may speak another language, Arabic, French, pick one of the representative languages in our region, but the child may still primarily speak only English, even though they understand that native tongue, okay? And we know that in our district, there's approximately 180 native languages. So under the language bubble, put what is the language experience of the English learner that you chose, okay? Then in terms of their experiences, they have a wide range of formal schooling, right? They may have come from a really great educational background in their home country, or they may have hardly attended formal schooling at all. Again, they may have lived in the US their entire life. That doesn't mean that they are not an English learner. They could be refugees and asylees. We know in recent years that we've been getting more students that come from war-torn countries, and that transition for them is really difficult, right? So on top of all of the difficulties of language learning, they have a lot of trauma and other things that they're dealing with, right? And we know that they may or may not have proper documentation. Then third, in terms of labels, because you know in public education, we love to label things, right? So in the past, they were LEP, but then we were like, well, that's not nice. That focuses on their deficiencies, not on their abilities, right? So now they're ELs. For a while, they were ELLs. They were English language learners. Now they're just English learners, okay? They might be bilingual. They might be dual language. They might be in one way. They might be in two way. I don't think there's any other way. No, I don't think so. Like, well, maybe they're Mandalorian and they follow the way. You never know. It's possible. So you're going to open up your bubble map. Oh, goodness. If you hit the back button, it gets rid of all the stuff instead of going back. Okay. So that was a lot of explanation. Let me just encapsulate. Open up your bubble map, write the name of your English learner, share with your group why you chose them. Then what is their experience? What is their language? And what label did they have? Maybe now they're just in the English learner. Maybe they were bilingual, dual language. Okay. So I'm going to send you to your breakout room. You're going to have, I'll be nice. I'll give you 6 minutes so that you have time to share and time to finish your bubble map. All right. I see something in the chat real quick. Okay. Yeah. If you have to step away from the meeting, you are an adult. You take care of your needs. It's not a problem at all. Okay. So I'm going to open up the rooms and give you 6 minutes. If there's any questions, please let me know. All right. Eleni, I'm going to assign you to room 1. And Jamie, were you in a room? I don't think you were, right? No? Okay. How about room 7? Just so we get both ends of the spectrum there.
Gabriel, I was in 6 if you need to send somebody there.
Oh, was that you, Angie?
Yeah, I was in 6.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not sure I can do a lot, so just letting you know they may be one short.
Okay, then you know what? Jamie doesn't know this. I'm gonna move her. I'll just move her. It's fine. I'll move her later. No big deal.
Okay.
For now, she can be. I do need 4 in each group as much as possible for a later activity. So that'll be good to know for later.
Okay.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's keep the train rolling.
I wish we had more time in there.
I know, and I apologize. It's just that we have a lot more breakout rooms and a lot more learning. So unfortunately, the good news is, though, we are going to be revisiting and thinking about the English language learners that we chose, because a lot of times it's easy to kind of get caught up in the strategies. And even though you serve kids every day, to remember, I'm affecting the lives of very specific individuals. And I want to make sure that I reach them as much as possible. Okay. So let's think about the differences between BICS, which is defined as basic interpersonal communication skills, and CALPS, cognitive academic language skills. So let's watch this very brief video and talk about that just a bit more.
Two very well-known terms in pedagogy with your English language learners, BICS, CALP. BICS is your basic interpersonal communication skills, and we call that the playground language, the social language. That's the, hi, how are you? I'm fine, how are you? The academic language is called the CALP, Cognitive Academic Language Proficiency. Now, as students acquire a language, they first go through the BICS stage, the, hi, how are you? I'm fine. What's your name? My name is Mary. Nice to meet you, Mary. You too. And they pick that up within a year or two. Really, some students pick it up a lot faster. Some kids have some prior English and go through that stage very quickly. The CALP takes basically 5 to 7 years, and depending on the student, sometimes longer, sometimes less. And that's the content language that helps them to be successful in their content classes. There's a big discrepancy where a student may be socializing in your class and you feel, oh, they're really language proficient, they understand English. They take their first test and they bomb it. Why? The academic language proficiency is not there. So of course, as a teacher, you would want to work with the student, bring into your lesson activities that would help hone that cognitive academic language proficiency. And the SIOP method, the Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol as a lesson plan format, is very helpful in helping a student reach that cognitive academic language proficiency, the content language. And again, keep in mind, it will take a couple of years. So you can't expect it at the end of 1 year. At the end of 2 years, it's going to be longer.
All right. So, as we think about, there we go. As we think about BICS and CALP, I want to do a quick activity where we do a sort. Angie dropped the bit.ly into the chat, and what that's going to do is that is going to take you here to optimal sort. Now, if you've never seen this website, we're going to do a couple of these today. It's optimalsort.com, and this is free. The free account only allows 10 participants to actually show their answers. And so I use it because I've never had enough people to have more than 10 breakout rooms. Okay, so just keep in mind that if you do choose to use this, it's very easy, it's very intuitive. You just sign up with your Google account and it's free, but you would have to use it as a group tool. So you're going to hit continue. And then it's going to tell you, sort the language scenarios various English learners might encounter during a typical school day. Choose whether you think each scenario falls into the category of BICS or CALPS. So you're going to go back to your room, back to your breakout room, that is. I would recommend you choose one person to kind of be the leader and have them share their screen, and then you all could talk about it. So for example, Daniel and Marco give directions for how to play a game they invented on the playground. So is that going to be cognitive academic language proficiency, or is that going to be basic interpersonal? And you're going to decide that as a group, okay? If you disagree, most of you are in groups of 4, so if you have a 50-50 split, I guess cast lots Old Testament style. I don't know what to tell you, okay? So Graciela and her friends discuss who has the best hair for the day. Depending on how complicated their hairdo is, that might be cognitive academic language, or maybe it's just basic, right? Depends whether they do their hair or they got their hair did. It really just depends, all right? So I think you get it. One person share their screen and kind of be the leader for that. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. And if you have any questions, as always, let me know. If not, away we go. Okay, so I didn't tell you this before we left. And oh, wait, hold on. I'm waiting forever. Now everyone's back. Okay, I didn't tell you this before we left, but I want to hear from every group. So if you want to be the brave one from your group, we're actually going to go through and do this together and see what you all thought. So breakout group number 1. Daniel and Marco give directions for how to play a game they invented on the playground. What do you think? And you can just unmute and let me know or put it in the chat.
Basic.
Okay. Group 1 says basic. Give me, show in your camera, give me a thumbs up if you agree, sideways if you're like, I'm not sure, or thumbs down if you vehemently disagree. Okay, I got some thumbs up. I got some thumbs down. If you give me a thumbs down, tell me why. What do you think?
So our group kind of came up with the idea that they're using academic skill. They are doing they're talking about a procedure. So they're just like in their writing, they're using procedural information to show, okay, this is how we do it here, here, and here. And so explaining is also, in the TEKS. So we kind of thought that actually could be a cognitive academic language skill.
So this one is purposely vague. It really depends on what kind of language they're using when they're giving the directions, right? If they're saying, first, we have to do this, this, and this, then I completely agree. Then that would be some really higher level language. And also depending on what the actual ability level in English is of the students doing the directions, right? But if it's just, I run, you tag, right? You could do that too. So I would say if you chose to put it in either one, it really depends on the scenario. So you are not wrong. And Susan says that she agrees with Matthew's group. So Matthew, I also agree with you and disagree with you because I'm a moderate. I refuse to take a position. No, I'm just kidding. If you're a moderate, don't be offended. I'm just kidding. Okay. Thank you so much, group 1. All right, group number 2, Graciela and her friends discuss who has the best hair for the day. What do you think? All right, group 2 looks like they chatted it up. They said Bix. Okay, give me your thumbs. Yes, maybe, no. Yeah, I think I don't look. I'm a dude, right? I don't have much hair left. It's very thin. And so there's really not a lot of vocabulary I could use. So for me, that would definitely be a Bix. But I have a hard time seeing how that has a lot of cognitive academic difficulty. Okay. Group number 3, Ming Ha answers a question about a book the teacher read aloud to the class. Group number 3.
I believe we picked cognitive on that one.
All right. Do you want to tell me why?
We just thought that there was so much that they had to explain that it would take more than just basic skills.
Okay. And 2, let's look at the context, right? Even if it was a relatively easy book that was read aloud, it's still in an academic setting. And you would hope that the expectation is the teacher is requiring the students to use academic language that goes along with the lesson objectives that the teacher planned for, right?
Right.
Right. Okay. So yes, do you agree with Rebecca? What do you think? Matthew's like, yes, I do. Sorry, you gave the face shrug of agreement. Yes, indeed. I think British people.
I just need the monocle.
I just can't believe like they canceled Mr. Potato Head, but they didn't cancel the Monopoly guy. Like how is he still? That makes no sense. Okay. Thank you, group 3. All right, group 4. Maria and Miguel are discussing the school dance while walking to chemistry class. Ooh, Maria's like, Miguel, is you going with anybody? And Miguel is shy. He doesn't know if he's reading the signals right. It is fraught with emotional and social peril. But that has nothing to do with the language ability. No. So what do you think?
We said Bix.
You said Bix. Okay. Yes. I think you're right. Now, I will say for Maria, she probably is having more of a cognitive discussion because ladies are smarter than boys. And Miguel's like totally not realizing what's going on, right? So he's definitely living in the Bix world. So hopefully she's scaffolding down the skills to his level. I sincerely. right? Okay, so Zeke just got paid. You see that? Zeke just got, no, that wasn't Zeke. I'm sorry, that was Dak. Zeke got paid a couple years ago and he totally hasn't earned it. My bad. Okay. Zeke and his friends discuss who is the fastest runner on the playground. Zeke thought it was him, but his numbers don't prove that anymore. I'm sorry, I'll stop. So they discuss who is the fastest runner. Group 5, what do you think?
We said Bix.
Okay, I would agree. Does anyone have a case to make why it should go over here? Anyone? Okay, no. All right, thank you, Group 5. Group 6, Lisbeth listens to her teacher give her directions to the nurse's office. Now, this one does deal specifically with listening, but don't forget that that is the first modality that any language learner acquires, is the ability to understand spoken language, okay? So Group 6, what did you guys say?
We said Bix.
Okay. Does anyone disagree? Anyone think it should go over to cognitive academic language? I see no, oh, hold on. I see something in the chat.
I'm going to speak up for one of my group members. Betsy actually did kind of have a pretty good argument for why it could, because you're using academic language to potentially, or hopefully the teacher is using academic language to give direction to where the nurse's office is.
So I'm not going to lie. I'm not saying you're wrong, okay? But I am saying I'm right. I actually would put it here only because we don't normally have this, just friendly discussions about directions, right? There's a reason there's an app for that, because there is very specific cognitive language. Okay, so, and again, for the same reason that the giving instructions for the game on the playground could be cognitive, if you think about, if Lisbeth is a beginning language learner, right? Okay, sweetheart, you're gonna go down this hallway, you're gonna make a left. Now you wanna look for this landmark because it's right next to, you see what I'm saying? You are helping the person to translate space and direction into the abstraction of language. Okay. Now, for a child that has a much higher ability, if they're advanced high, that's really probably not going to be, that is going to be just basic communication, right? But if you think about different language levels, and again, these are purposely vague to make you think, okay? Some of them, like the girl, oh my gosh, your hair's so beautiful, and I love the braids you did, right? I don't know how girls talk about their hair. I don't have any daughters, right? My sons will like not even my 13-year-old will not fix his hair. And I'm just like, dude, you like girls, right? He's like, yeah. Would you like them to like you? Then comb your hair. But it doesn't matter. Okay. So Mohammed, group 7, that was group 6, right? All right. Group 7, Mohammed listens to his friend tell about the video game he bought at the store yesterday. Hopefully it wasn't Grand Theft Auto, because that just got canceled in Chicago. True story. You can look it up. I'm not making this stuff up. Group 7. What do you think?
I think we put it as Bix. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong.
Any disagreement? Yeah, Susan said Bix. Okay, so let's look at these. Supit shares about her traditions as she shows a photo of her family celebration to the class. Hopefully you put that one here, right? Because again, I get that the traditions makes it sound like it's informal holiday stuff, right? But you're using very specific language that only goes with certain activities, right? And so for students that may not be familiar with those, that's going to be a higher cognitive load for them to bear, because the language is going to be largely abstractions, right? Daphne recites the Pledge of Allegiance on the school speaker as a part of daily announcements. Ooh. Now, we know that the pledge has lots of high cognitive words, right? There's a lot of stuff in there. But when she's reciting, is she necessarily understanding? So that's a tricky one. It could go here, could go here. It just depends on how much Daphne means it in her heart. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm going to leave that one off. David, no. Go ahead. Okay. David answers the teacher's question about the algebra equation on the board. That's cognitive language for me, and I'm a native English speaker, right? So that's definitely going to be cognitive there. Not tells her teacher about riding the bus to a museum for the first time on a field trip. This one could live in either way, right? It depends on what exactly is discussed and what Na's level is. And then Simon and his group are planning what they will add to their group poster for their state project. I sincerely hope that that's academic because they should be talking about their project. All right. So the bottom line is you want to be aware of the fact that even if students are super proficient in having a friendly interpersonal banter with their friends, transferring that language over to cognitively demanding concepts and rigorous academic vocabulary is very different. That is challenging for native English speakers. And so the strategies that we're going to talk about and look at as we dive into the ELPs is going to be beneficial to all of our students. All right. Sorry. I'm trying to find my full screen here, but I got it. It disappeared, but it's back. Okay. Now, I am not going to, I'm not going to have you take a look at the ELPs, but what I want you to know is that the state of Texas and TEA specifically wants you to know that classroom instruction that effectively integrates second language acquisition with quality content area instruction ensures that English learners acquire social and academic language proficiency in English, learn the knowledge and skills of the TEKS, and reach their full academic potential. And so Angie has dropped the link. If you do not have a physical copy of the ELPs, you can open that up. We are not going to look at the ELPs in isolation. We're actually going to look at a tool that makes the ELPs intelligible and easier to use and apply. But I do want you to have access to the ELPs themselves, okay? Now, I'm not going to show you this video. Everyone knows about Charlie Brown's teacher, right? So what we don't want to we don't want to be that, okay? Even if we think that we are communicating clearly and effectively, if we are not intentionally integrating the English language proficiency standards into all of our lessons in some way, shape, or form, a lot of times for our students, regardless of language level, we sound like Charlie Brown's teacher at some point. And so how do we avoid that? Well, we want to make content comprehensible. So just drop into the chat real quick. What does comprehensible mean to you? What does it make you think of? Or how do you make something comprehensible? What does it mean to you? How do you make something comprehensible? Please respond to either of those. Okay, to understand, to easily understand, or help someone understand. I like short and specific comments. I like being able to understand and expand thinking about, okay. Broken down to where the concept can be grasped. Ooh, Adrian put gestures, right? That helps. And then Veronica put, to understand the concept, you should be able to talk about it and write about it. I got two people that put visuals make content comprehensible. Perfect. Okay. Oh, being able to explain back what the level of comprehension is. I mean, you guys are good. Maybe you guys should lead a session like this and then you wouldn't have to listen to me. And then Quintoria said that if it's comprehensible, you should be able to explain it. All right, perfect. So sheltered instruction, right? You're like, dude, I thought we were going to talk about sheltered instruction and you're on like slide 20 and you finally got around to it. But that's because everything has been building to this point. So the definition of sheltered instruction is an approach for making grade level academic content comprehensible to English learners while at the same time promoting language development. So we have two challenges with our English learners. We want them to develop English, right? But we also need them to understand what it is that we're trying to teach them. And so the question is, how do we do both at the same time? Can academic content be a driver of learning academic language? And the answer is yes. It may seem like the answer is, I don't think so. How are kids going to learn about stuff when they don't know what any of the words mean? Well, the beautiful thing is you can make the words comprehensible so that as they learn the vocabulary, they are learning the content that the vocabulary defines and explains. And if you doubt me, I will show you. Okay, and again, I've already said this, but this is our mantra in the English Learner Support Team. Sheltered instruction, right? The strategies that we teach and champion are necessary for some students, but they are good for all students, okay? And so, yeah, I see it's sheltered because here is the instruction and it's protected really only from the rain. The wind is really gonna get it. It's not a perfect analogy, so just give me some grace, okay? All right, now I'm gonna let you watch this video and then I'm gonna send you to your group briefly, okay, just for about 3 minutes. And I want you to discuss with your group, what did the teacher do to help students reach their full potential, and what types of language did the students use? Now, this clip is a little bit lengthy, so you might want to just jot some notes down, but what strategies do you see the teacher intentionally employing to make the content comprehensible? And how do you see the students demonstrating their comprehension through the language that they use? Okay? All right.
Okay, before we start, I also want to just review with you. Today, when we're thinking about force in our experiment today, I want you to be thinking about gravity, which we've talked about over the last couple weeks, and also the buoyant force. And your explanations later today, you're going to be using the words gravity and buoyant force. And of course, you're also going to be using Newton's first law of motion. So now I'm going to hand out to you the directions for our raisin experiment today. I'm going to hand it out to you and you guys are going to read it, and then I'm going to call on some volunteers to help explain the activity to us. Sergio, what is the first step for the experiment?
Put 100 millimeters of water in your beaker.
Yes, we're going to put 100 milliliters of water into our beaker, and we used the beakers yesterday, so we're going to be using the same size beaker that you used yesterday. And our first step is going to be to put 100 milliliters of water, or H2O, into our beaker. And lucky for you guys, I have the beakers for you already, and they already have the water in it, so you don't even have to do that step. Okay, I would like you guys to tell your partners step 2 and step 3. Horacio, what's step 2?
Add 1 spoonful of baking soda to a beaker.
Yep, okay, so we're going to be using baking soda today, and you guys have all seen baking soda before, but I actually have it in little cups for you today just to make it easier to get it at your table. So you're going to add 1 spoonful of baking soda into the beaker. So you'll have water in your beaker, and you're just going to take 1 spoonful and put it in the beaker. And step 3, can I have a volunteer? Ashley?
Add 5 raisins to a beaker.
Okay, step 3 is an interesting one. We're going to also be adding raisins into our beaker. So you're going to have 5 raisins, and you're actually just going to drop them into the beaker. So we're going to add 5 raisins. TJ, what's the next step? Step 4.
Add 15 milliliter vinegar to your beaker.
Yep, you're going to add 15 milliliters of vinegar, and again, you guys have all used vinegar before, and I have it all ready for you in these graduated cylinders. So the next thing that you'll do is add the 15 milliliters of vinegar into your beaker. You're going to just pour it in there. Okay, and I'm actually just going to go through the next few steps. So step 5 is that you're going to record your observations for about 2 to 3 minutes. What do you notice happening? What do you see happening?
Okay.
Okay, before we start, I also want to just
quiet you. So I'm going to send you to your rooms, and I want you to discuss, excuse me, What did the teacher do to help the students reach their full potential and make the content of what they were going to do in the experiment comprehensible? And what types of language did the students use when she called upon them to demonstrate the fact that they were with her and actually comprehending? Okay, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. When we come back, please choose one representative to drop what you feel like was the most effective thing the teacher did into the chat. Okay, 3 minutes to discuss the 2 things on the slide. Choose one representative to drop in the chat what was the most effective. Okay. You should see the invitation now. All right, it looks like everybody is back. So if one representative from each group would be kind enough to drop in the chat, what do you feel was the most effective thing that the teacher did to make the content comprehensible for her students? Okay, Christy says that the teacher used visual representation and also modeled what she was doing for the students. Okay, so you had visuals and you had modeling. All right, those are definitely effective. Catherine agrees in group 2, modeling. Adrian agrees, visual and modeling. Michaela is all visuals and modeling. Eusebia said all the visuals. Stephanie said modeling, and guess what? And Quintorius did. Everyone else said visual, and again, I'm not against that. That is absolutely super effective. But allowing the students to explain, right? So, and if you'll notice that she called on different students, you can tell, at least I think you could, that there were definitely varying levels of English ability, right? But she let everybody share at the level that they were able to, right? So she set a high expectation. You're going to share, right? Even if you're uncomfortable, even if you don't like it. And you'll notice there was no sniggering. There was no, oh my goodness, you know what I'm saying? There was none of that. So clearly that kind of stuff, because look, I don't know about you, but I've had people filming and I've had visitors and my kids still cut up, even with high expectations. Okay. And Kelsey said sharing with the group first probably helped with confidence. I agree. Okay, fantastic. So let me ask you this. What makes someone English proficient? And this is the last question before the break. I want you to think, how many of you like to go to Starbucks? Anybody like Starbucks? Anybody love that? Andre's like, I don't pay for that overpriced coffee. I could tell he's shaking his head. It's like, why would I pay $5 for a cup of coffee? That's insane. All right, Kelsey, is it Dunky Junky? Is that Dunkin' Donuts? Is that what that is?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so it's funny because growing up in New Jersey, Dunkin' Donuts was like, that was my jam. But then when I moved down here, like there's hardly any. The closest one is down in Burleson to me. And like, I like Dunkin' Donuts. I don't like it that much. Okay. But even if you go to Dunkin' Donuts, right, they've tried to catch up to Starbucks. So they have just as many convoluted, ridiculously named drinks, right? And so here's my question. You know the language, right? You don't say small, medium, large. You say tall, grande, and venti, right? So that's you don't use that language anywhere else but at Starbucks, right? It is content specific. You can ask for a half calf. You can ask for almond milk, soy milk, oat milk, non-fat milk, right? You can ask for an extra shot. You can ask for other syrup add-ons. Now you can get nitro cold brew with cold foam. I just learned that one the other day. Not for me, that was my friend who was ordering that, right? But let me ask you this. Even if you are like a Starbucks junkie and you know all those words, could you make those drinks? Anybody feel like if they were back behind the bar there and they had the machine, they'd be able to make a half calf non-fat latte with 2 extra shots and extra froth? No, right? Because English proficiency is all about context. It's all about, do I have the language and the knowledge to use this language in this specific or particular context? And that's why it is a multi-year process, as we saw in the video with Bix and Kalps, right? And so I just want you to think about every single lesson I teach has a context provided by the topic and the knowledge that is specific to that topic, right? Sometimes that knowledge is used across topics. Sometimes that language is common across topics, but sometimes it is very specific and only in that topic, especially for subjects like math, science, and social studies, okay? And so as we move forward and as we look at the ELPs more in depth and think about connecting those to content, I want you to keep that in mind. All right, I have good news for you. It's time to take a break. All right. It's important to be present in everything you're doing. And when you can't be present, it's probably because you need a break. So take 10 minutes. It is 9:56. I will see you at 10:06. Enjoy your break. All right, if you can hear me, you got about 1 minute and 30 seconds. We are coming back from our break in 1 minute and 30 seconds. All right, my friends. I'm going to take a look, see if it looks like most of you are back. A bunch of you have your camera off, so if you're not back, that is okay. I'm sure you will get back as soon as you are able. So, welcome back. Welcome to the second half of our time together. We're doing pretty good on time. So now we want to talk about the how. How do I teach my content and develop my English learners' language proficiency? And this is where the ELPS and the tool that I'm about to share with you become absolutely essential. Okay, so Angie's going to drop the link for the LIAG into the chat. And you'll notice, we're going to look at it in just a second, the LIAG is going to contain all of the 4 linguistic domains that are in the ELPS, all of the proficiency levels, but what it's going to do is it's going to make the ELPS comprehensible for you as an educator so that you can more easily employ them with your students. So let's take a quick look here. No, that's not it. No, that's not it either. Here it is. Okay, sorry about that. I got a lot of links open. So what you'll notice about the LIAG, so grades K through 12 listening. Here's the first domain, okay? It has the English language proficiency descriptors. These are the ones measured on the TELPAS, and it has them by language level, okay? Then on the right-hand side, it actually has the ELPS listed out for each domain. All right, so if you'll notice for listening, it's just A through I. The ELPS are not like the TEKS. The TEKS are voluminous, right? Because they are for every subject and every grade level. You'll notice for every student K through 12, there's only A through I. Okay, so it's very, manageable, and it's very doable. Okay, then what it does is it breaks down the ELPS into how they fit into the college and career readiness standards by listing the key cognitive skills that those ELPS unlock and the other foundational skills that are necessary. And then what it does is you have these descriptors of up here to be able to identify and recognize where your students fall in terms of language ability. But then how do you move them out of that level into a higher level? How do you scaffold for them? Well, it has suggested teacher behaviors. For example, to increase listening for beginning level students, speak in a clear, concise manner, provide and allow clarification in students' native language, including assistance from peers. And you'll notice that some of these are also present in the document we used at the beginning when you did your self-reflection and self-evaluation, okay? You'll also notice as you go down, they're organized by color band. So listening is purple, speaking is blue, and it has the same dimensions, right? It has the ELPS TELPAS descriptors, here on the left, the specific ELPS that go with speaking here on the right, which are A through J, okay? And then the teacher behaviors. Now, I will let you know that for reading, it is separated into kindergarten and first, because obviously those are emerging readers. And then it is separated out for 2 through 12. Similarly, for writing, it is separated for K1 and then 2 through 12. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you some time to examine the LIAG. Okay? And here's what I want you to do. We're going to do a jigsaw. All right? And I know it says 5 minutes here. I should have changed that to 10. That's my bad. I somehow missed that, even though I've looked over this 14 times. So you are going to go to your breakout rooms, and I want you to choose one person that's going to look at the LIAG for listening, one person that's going to look at speaking, one person that's going to look at reading, and one person that's going to look at writing. Now, if your group does not have 4 individuals, you may need to split up another one of the sections, okay? And what I want you to do in this 10 minutes is simply summarize the ELPs, okay? That's all I want you to do. I want you to look at the ELPs for your chosen linguistic domain. Okay, if you're the listening person, you're going to look at the listening ELPs and you're going to summarize them, bullet point them for your group. So you're going to do that for 5 minutes. And then for the second 5 minutes, you're going to share back to your group. You're going to be that linguistic domain ELPs expert, and you're going to explain it to each other person. So whoever chooses speaking, you're going to read through the speaking ELPs and you're going to summarize those for the group. Similarly for reading and writing, okay? Now, talk to your group. If you get chosen or you choose to do reading or writing, you're not going to have time to do both, okay? Some of the ELPs are very similar, okay? But I would say choose K1 or 2 through 12 that is most appropriate for your group. So if there's more 2 through 12 teachers, do those. If there's more K1 teachers, do those, okay? So again, to summarize, you're going to have 10 minutes. You're going to choose a linguistic domain, read just the ELPs for your domain, and then after 5 minutes, choose someone to be the timekeeper. You're going to then share out your summary of your ELPs for the rest of your group so that everyone gets to understand every single linguistic domain. All right? I hope that those instructions were clear. If they were not, please let me know before I send you to your breakout room, okay? So you're gonna have 10 minutes. Remember, 5 minutes to familiarize yourself with your ELPs, 5 minutes to share out. Please keep that time. And you guys choose who's gonna cover which linguistic domain in your group. All right, unless I'm terribly mistaken, I think everyone is back. So before we move on to our next slide, and we're going to take an even deeper dive into the LIAG and look, at how do you help your English learners at each individual proficiency level. But before we go there, what I would like to hear, and you can drop it in the chat, or you can feel free to unmute yourself, is were there any of the ELPs that really stood out to you? Either it was like, oh, you know, I haven't thought about that in a while. I do it sometimes, but this is a really good idea. This is something that I really need to be employing more often. Or were there any that you thought were particularly effective and you've seen used well, either in your own context or in some of your colleagues? So go ahead and just share with me which ELPs stood out to you for whatever reason. It sounded like someone unmuted themselves, but then it quickly went away. Okay. Oh, Rebecca, yes, of course you may ask a question. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask?
Hi, thank you. I was doing the English learners writing, and I have a question. What is language experience dictation?
Say it one more time because it was a little garbled, so I didn't understand.
Language experience dictation.
Language experience dictation. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing because I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but were you looking at the K1 or the 212 writing?
The 212.
212. Okay. And which ELP is it specifically?
It was actually at the very top when it was giving a description of the writing. It's in the bullet points.
Okay. Okay, I
page
see.
1 or 2.
So let me make sure. So
It sounded important.
which page are you looking at? You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So up here, so this is hold on. This is K, you said not K1, but 212.
Well, go all the way to the very top. It was one of the very first pages that was on the whole. Go all the way up.
All the way to the very top of here?
Yes. Love you, Miss. Hi, Annabella. Okay. It was like the second. Yeah, go down.
Okay. Kelsey said that it is listening and understanding implied meaning and ideas. So that sounds correct. That's kind of where I was going, but I want to make sure that I'm very much addressing. So if we look at the page, what page is it on, Rebecca?
I don't see the.
Well, you see how like you see on the bottom of my screen, it says page 3 of 18. Well, how about this? Why don't you do this? Find it.
Okay.
And you should be able to open it as a regular PDF, in which case you can grab the text. If you can grab it and just put it into the chat, I will look at it and I will get you a very specific answer. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
I'm pretty sure that Kelsey and her group are on the right track, but I want to give you 100% spot on. This is what it is. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. So, anyone else, any of the ELPs stand out to you for any particular reason? And then, hold on, Veronica said that the reading and writing ELPs are strongly correlated, and that is absolutely correct. You've heard it said that reading and writing are intertwined, but obviously that is true, right? It is through reading other people's text and seeing that as a model that we learn to write. And so we want to make sure that we never divorce those. And something that I say for all English learners, young, old, whatever, is that no person can write what they cannot say, right? If they don't have the language to express it, it's usually, now for older language learners, that's not necessarily the case. If they're very fluent in their native tongue, right? A lot of times it's easier to develop writing as a modality because I can sit there and take the time to process. Whereas in order to speak, I have to instantaneously take in what someone else said and respond, and it requires processing at a much greater speed. But in most cases, speaking is the oral rehearsal that makes writing possible. Speaking is the practice that allows me to be able to express my thoughts so that I can put them down on a piece of paper. All right, it doesn't seem like anyone else is like desperate to share. So if you still want to, feel free, but we'll go ahead and move on. Okay, I realize that was probably very rushed, but like I said, I still need to get you out of here in a reasonable hour. So now we're going to look at Jigsaw Part 2. You're going to stay with your same groups, obviously. And by the way, I am going to put you into some different breakout groups in just a little bit. If you're tired of each other, just stick with each other for a few more minutes, okay? So you're going to stick with your same group. You're going to stick with your same linguistic domain. But this time, we're not going to look at the ELPs. We're going to look at each of the proficiency levels and the recommended teacher behaviors, okay? So you're going to review the descriptions for each proficiency level, and you're going to share out with your group, okay? So once again, just to make sure we're on the same page, you're going to come to, let's jump down to, let's say you're doing 2 through 12 reading, okay? You already talked about the ELPs here on the right-hand side. So you're going to go below. You're going to summarize those suggested teacher behaviors for your group. So go ahead and jot down some notes in the first 5 minutes, and then take the second 5 minutes to share out which suggested teacher behaviors you read and understood at each of the proficiency levels. Okay? Perfect, Rebecca. So Rebecca, what I'll do is while you guys are in your group, I will take a look at that and I will give you a very specific answer, because I'll be able to, because obviously I'm familiar with this document, but there's a lot of stuff there. So I want to make sure that I give you as the best answer possible. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
You got it. And thank you for finding it. Okay, so once again, you're going to have 5 minutes to work on your chosen linguistic domain, and then 5 minutes to share out what you've discovered. Okay, so it's 10 minutes once again. And the rooms are now open. And I will give you that 5-minute warning halfway through. Okay. All right. And Rebecca, hold on a second. Why is it not? There we go. I posted a response to your question in the chat. If you need further elaboration, please let me know. But hopefully that makes sense. And that's there for everyone to benefit from. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You are very welcome. My pleasure. So let's think about moving towards English proficiency, right? We just looked at best practices for moving kids from beginning to intermediate, advanced, and advanced high. And so it's just good to remember that this is a lengthy process, okay? So according to a study conducted by Stanford University, oral proficiency takes, how long do you think? You can chat it up or unmute. Either way is good. Christy says,
Guessing, but I think it might, oral proficiency probably take about maybe 5 to 7 years.
okay. And when I say proficiency, and I should have defined that a little better, I mean where their English ability orally is comparable to native speakers. Not perfect, not absent any second language acquisition mistakes. So people said we got anywhere from 3 to 7. That study indicates that it's 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was just about to say.
That's because you're good and you got the good skills. I like your background too, by the way. I've been meaning to tell you that this whole meeting.
Thank you.
So what about academic English proficiency? Again, this is oral proficiency largely on a BICS level, right? And we think navigating social situations is relatively easy, but if we think about all the different social situations that we find ourselves in, it's a lot more complex than maybe we let on, right? In terms of academic proficiency, Andre says 5 to 7 years.
5 to 7.
5 to 7, 4 to 7, but you were close, right? And this is very similar to what we saw in the video earlier when the individual was talking about the difference between BICS and CALPS. It's just this study basically found the same thing, just using slightly different methodology. Okay, so then again, I like to think of it this way. My wife and I were missionaries, okay? So again, if you're not a believer, that's not the point. But the point was this. Our supervisor told us, think of every situation as an X+1 situation, right? As a missionary, right, you want people to get closer to God, right? Everybody is at spiritual condition X, wherever that might be. So your job is to get them X+1. It's like that way with language, right? You have a lot longer with your students because you're with them every day for 180 some odd days, right? And so you want every day to be X+1 in language, understanding that you might be at the very beginning of their journey, or you might have them when they're advanced high. But if you think of every day as they're at language condition X, and I just want to at least move them one step. If I can move them more steps, fantastic. But every day is an opportunity to get kids at least +1 in their language growth and ability. Okay, so what are you supposed to teach? You're supposed to teach the content TEKS plus the ELPs, right? So you have all of your modalities here. You have your descriptors here of where your students are. And then you have your target of your ELPs, which is what we just looked at, okay? So the TEKS plus the ELPs, it helps if you click, there we go, are the what plus the how. The ELPs are the vehicle through which teaching language leads to content acquisition, okay? So you want the TEKS, that's what am I supposed to teach? And then the ELPs, how am I going to have my students demonstrate their mastery of the content linguistically? Am I going to have them just listen? Am I going to have them speak? Am I going to have them read, or am I going to have them write? Now, do you need to include an ELP for every single one? No, that's absurd, right? But what you'll notice is that some of your ELPs lend themselves to leveraging and using multiple language modalities at the same time, okay? So let's think about, how do we create a content and a language objective? How do we make sure that we are intentional about including language acquisition and students demonstrating increased language proficiency every time we have a lesson, okay? So let's say you're using Science TEK 3.5a, right? And that's a 3rd grade science TEK about matter and energy. And this would be based on your district scope and sequence, right? You have to teach what they tell you to teach when they tell you to teach it, okay? But I just chose this one. Students know that matter has measurable physical properties, and those properties determine how matter is classified, changed, and used. And the student is expected to do what? Measure, test, and record physical properties of matter, including temperature, mass, magnetism, and buoyancy, okay? Then, let's say I know my students' proficiency, so I'm going to design a lesson, and again, understanding I have different levels of proficiency, but realizing where are most of my students at, and which ELP is going to give me the most bang for my buck. So I'm going to choose Listening ELP 2G. The student is expected to understand the general meaning, main points, and important details of spoken language, ranging from situations in which topics, language, and context are familiar to unfamiliar. So the reality is, at 3rd grade, most students, English proficient or not, English language learners or not, are not that familiar. They might be familiar with temperature, but mass, magnetism, and buoyancy are very new, right? And so understanding the general and main points of those, okay, especially as it pertains to understanding them through spoken language, is probably a good starting point, okay? So, excuse me. All we did here is I said, okay, here is this objective. I'm going to pair it with this ELP, because I think this ELP is going to get me to help students get the most understanding of this concept, okay? This is the specific tool that I'm going to use. I'm going to focus on listening, and I want students to listen for these measurable properties, okay? So now I'm going to put you in groups of 2. If for some reason somebody doesn't join your group or I need to move you, you might end up with a group of 3, okay? But we're going to try to do no more than that. I'm going to let you choose who's A and who's B. It doesn't matter. It's basically who goes first, who goes second, okay? And we're going to do this twice, so your roles are going to change, all right? So partner A is going to read a content objective. Any content objective you want. It can be one you're teaching this week. It can be one you taught last week. It doesn't matter, but choose a specific objective. You can pull it up in the TEKS app, okay? You can share your screen and the person can look at it, but you want to select a content objective, and you want to make sure you have your LIAG open so you can look at the ELPs, okay? So A is going to read their content objective, and B is going to select and read a listening ELP to pair with it. So based on the content objective partner A shares with you, partner B, I want you to choose an ELP that you feel like would be appropriate to help students listen to and understand the concept from the objective, okay? And you're gonna have 5 minutes to do that, and then we're gonna switch roles, all right? And that'll be an additional 5 minutes. Everybody got it? Everybody cool on what we're doing? And just in case, what I'm gonna do, if I can, there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and drop those instructions in the chat for you, okay? So you have those. Now be aware, once you go to your breakout room, you will no longer be able to see these, so you may want to grab them ahead of time, okay? I'm going to recreate the rooms. Oops. Okay, I'm going to create 12 rooms. If you have 3 people, then just have your third person choose a content objective, and then the other 2 people can choose collaboratively a listening help, okay? All right. All the rooms are open. If you have any issues or any questions, please let me know. If not, I'll see you in 5 minutes. All right, everybody should be back in the saddle again. Okay, so now we're going to look at, we chose a standard and we chose an ELP to pair with it. Yes, if you have to leave, don't you worry. I will send you a follow-up email tomorrow to everybody that has the presentation, the video recording, and all of the resources, okay? So thank you so much for being here, and I understand people have meetings and things, so not a problem at all. Okay, so we looked at, there we go. We're gonna stick with Science and Matter 3.5a, okay? Where we're gonna have students test and record physical properties of matter. But this time I'm gonna pair it with Speaking ELP 3e, which says, the student is expected to share information in cooperative learning interactions, okay? So how do I take those 2 and create one student-friendly objective that tells them what they need to know and how they're gonna demonstrate their mastery of that using oral academic language, okay? So basically, I'm going to focus on measure, test, and record physical properties, and I'm going to look at very specific ones. So I know that my students are going to use mass, magnetism, and buoyancy, and then from the Speaking ELP, I'm going to pick share information in cooperative learning interactions. So combining those, I might come up with something like this, right? So the bold text is from my ELP, and the pink text is from, it's really more salmon. The salmon text is from my TEAC. We will tell our predictions to our group about the identity of a mystery object after we share jobs to investigate the object. So here you see the cooperative interaction, right? Here you see the oral language they're going to speak. And after they investigate, they're going to measure the length, the weight, the buoyancy, and the magnetism. So the students know exactly what it is that they're going to do, right? They're going to test the physical properties very specifically of objects, and they know how they're going to share that with their cooperative group, okay? Now, I also want you to think about the power of sentence stems, and we've used a few today to do some responses. And again, what we need to understand is that students may understand individual words, but they may not have the tools necessary linguistically to use them in a well-constructed sentence, okay? And so what we want to do is provide sentence stems that allow them both orally and in writing to have that foundation of academic language, which allows them to actually engage in discourse and writing. So for example, with the objective that I just shared, right? My prediction is that our mystery object is a blank. So after they do the testing, students know I can share using that stem. Or let's say I'm teaching about author's purpose. I think that the author's purpose is to inform, entertain, right? And then you could scaffold that up. I know this because, and students could share out. Let's say you're talking about math and you want students to be able to elaborate in writing the steps that they took to solve an equation. So to solve the equation, I first start by, and if they needed a more specific scaffolded stem, right, after they talk about the first step, then the second step is, lastly, the third step is, and if you needed to, you could even do that. Let's say you're doing long division, which I think has 5 steps, right? I think it's 4 or 5 in the acronym that we use. I forget. I'm coming up with this off the top of my head. But you could have a stem for each of those individual steps, right? So I'm not going to write. It really bothers me when, so let's say you were doing a social emotional lesson, you would have that, okay? So, sorry about that. This is going to be your last practice. After you do this, you're going to give each other some feedback and we're going to be done. Okay. And I'm going to drop this in the chat because it's a lot of steps. But here's what you're going to do. You're going to select one content objective. You may just select the one that you already chose from the previous activity. You're going to select a writing ELP to pair with it. So here we're looking at writing. Okay. You're going to write a language objective in student-friendly terms. So what do they need to know? And how are they going to demonstrate their knowledge in writing? It may be responding to a sentence stem. It may be a graphic organizer. It may be an exit ticket, right? It may be a short paragraph, okay? Then I want you to create a sentence stem to use with the objective, okay? So if you are teaching, say, about a specific historical event or how those historical events are important, what might be a way for students to write about that, okay? Now remember, you have 10 minutes, so you're gonna probably wanna take 5 or 6 to do this, okay? And then you're gonna share out with your group. We're not gonna do step 6 for time's sake, okay? Because I wanna make sure I get you out of here on time. So I'm just gonna post 1 through 5 in the chat for you. Let me open up the chat, and then I'm gonna send you to your group for 10 minutes, okay? I'm just going to stop sharing. It's easier to access the chat. Okay, the 5 steps are there in the chat if you want to copy and paste them so you have access to them. All right, but remember, choose an objective, pair it with a writing ELP, create one sentence stem, and share with your group, okay? Matthew,
Sorry, I had to go take care of something.
No. Do you have the invite to your group?
Yes.
Okay, look in the chat and there's 5. You're going to choose, I would choose the same objective you already picked for the previous activity.
Okay.
Pair it with one writing ELP. Write a student-friendly objective of the 2 together.
Okay.
And then create a sentence stem that students will use to actually accomplish their writing, and then share that with your group.
Okay, cool.
Okay, and if you grab it from the chat, that way you can paste it so you don't forget.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Thank
you.
you.
Sir. You got it. Appreciate you. Yes, if you're telling me I'm muted, I just figured that out. Sorry about that. All right. Everyone should be back now. I'm going to drop the last bit.ly that you will use today in the chat. And what this is, so go ahead and open it. And what this is going to do is it's going to take you to an evaluation. Okay. And so what you're going to do is you're going to provide each other feedback. And I promise, this is the last time you will go to a breakout room. So if you're like, boy, oh boy, am I sick and tired of you sending me to breakout rooms, don't forget this. The people who do the most talking, reading, writing, and speaking are doing the most learning. So hopefully you have talked and written and wrote, that's not a word, more than I have. So you learned more than I did. So anyway, what you're going to do is you are going to provide your name. You're going to choose one person in your group. Obviously, if there's only 2 of you, you choose the other person. So let's pretend Angie was still with us. She had to leave. So I'm going to provide feedback to Angie. I'm going to put me there, and this is who I'm evaluating. Then, in case I forgot what that person's objective was, right? Because you shared your objectives, have them share it out one more time. And then just ask, did it involve at least one grade level standard? Angie's did, because she's the best. Did it involve at least one ELP? Yes. Was it student friendly? You know what? It was a little too high level. Angie, I love you. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying some of the language you used was maybe a little too rigorous. You might want to use some simpler adjectives to describe that objective. And was there a specific activity? What I mean by that is, was there a sentence stem that let them know how they were going to write and what they were going to write about? Okay. And then if you want to give any recommendations for improvement, you can, and then you hit submit. So you're going to do that for one another. You only need to evaluate one person, right? If there's 3 of you, just kind of do a round robin, right? Veronica evaluates Gwyn, Gwyn evaluates Crystal, Crystal evaluates Veronica. Does that make sense? And it's only because y'all are the first 3 on the screen. Okay, so this is the last thing. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do this, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll call it a day. All right, so let me stop my share. I'm going to make sure the bit.ly is in the chat. Can everybody open it? Is everyone able to access it? Okay, fantastic. Then I'm going to send you one last time. 5 minutes, ready, set, go. All right. About half of you are back, and in 25 seconds, everyone else will be too. And then we will wrap it up and get you out of here on time. Okay, so in closing, I just want to share a couple of resources. You don't have to take note of these right now because they will all be listed in the follow-up email and in the PDF presentation. So I release a monthly bilingual professional learning SMORE. And if you would like to have access to that and you would like to subscribe, you can. Now you may be thinking, I don't teach bilingual, dummy, but that's okay because guess what? Bilingual students are English learners. So the strategies, I promise, will be applicable in all of your contexts. But if English Learner Professional Learning SMORE is more your speed, this one is released by my colleague, Melanie Yoakum, so you have access to that. We also release a monthly English Learner Parent Support SMORE that you can share directly with parents virtually, or we have a PDF printable copy which condenses it and makes it a little easier to print and send home. This is available in English and in Spanish. And then the only sessions I have left is the only session rather in March is Frere Models. So if you are interested in that one, feel free to sign up for it. And then I'm not going to have you fill this out now for time's sake, but I always like feedback on possible session topics and newsletter content. And so if you would like to, hey, I would like to see some professional development on this for English learners or on some of these other tools, or hey, I would read your newsletter if it had content about this, okay? Veronica, the links to sign up will be in the flyer, okay? So you'll be able to find that. And then the last thing that you need to know is when you see the PDF of this, these are all live links. Everywhere that has a button, you can click. So there's English learner support from TEA. There's our Region 11 support. There's support for at-home learning. All of our social media, including YouTube, where we house all of our professional development videos, read alouds for families, and lots of other resources. All of our s'mores and toolkits, and all of that is available from this slide, okay? And again, you don't have to take note of any of this right now because I'm going to send it all to you tomorrow. And the last thing is I want you to think about your English learner from the bubble map that we did earlier in the session. And I want you to ask yourself, what do you think that student wants most from you? And let's close with this video.
I like it when she does the groups, or when like we don't understand something and she gives us a big explanation and she gives a lot of examples. Like she gives pictures, examples, what it means, like your life, and cartoons, and a movie, and music. She'll give any example there is to explain the topic.
Yes, and when she moves slow and explain everything, and to just keep moving and explain everything, it's much more easy.
If we have groupies, we can help each other to practice our English with other people. Because your opinion is not better than the other. But if you put that two opinions together, that makes the best answer.
All right. So just remember that your English learners are desperately looking for you to make the content comprehensible for them. And thinking about taking your objectives, taking an ELP, putting them together and utilizing the strategies that we looked at today, lowering the effective filter and allowing for students to have some informal and less threatening conversations that still involve some academic language, but maybe academic language that's a little less rigorous, using graphic organizers, using sentence stems, using collaboration, allowing them to sort and determine where things belong based on criteria you provide or criteria that they develop, all of the different strategies. And again, you don't have to remember any of them because they'll all be listed in the presentation, which I'll send to you tomorrow. All right, so I got you out 2 minutes early. I should get a prize. So I'm